Thank you very much. Steve, I'm going to move to the other end of the table now. Um, Given what Salim's just said, I mean, do you think humanitarian agencies or multi-mandated development and humanitarian organizations have been involved in the process at all? I mean, has it had an impact on their work? What does this political process mean for principled humanitarian organizations?
Sure. Before I actually respond to the question directly, I'll just echo what Salim was saying. And I think that after the national dialogue concluded on January 21st, there was a tendency to believe that somehow the transition process was, clearly chugging along, making solid progress. But I think we're going to look back at the elements of the transition we've seen so far, and we're going to remember them as the easy times, perhaps, as the good old days. Because behind the scenes, as Salim was saying, I mean, we have this reconfiguration of power. We have, at the same time, progress on developing a constitution. And as Salim and others have said, a lot of the really hard issues in the transition were kicked down the road, really, rather than being dealt with up front. So what we see is really, the questions about how is the six-part federal structure going to work, what is going to be the status of the South, and plus, once we even have the Constitution drafted, then supposedly, though I understand there's some movement on this, also the need for a referendum on the Constitution to be followed by national elections. So what we're really seeing is a particularly sensitive, delicate phase in the transition process, and as it continues, I mean, we see what is, itself a humanitarian emergency, which is people dying in conflict, combatants and civilians alike. I mean, this past week, essentially, we've seen, about 250, 300 people killed in fighting so far, mostly in Amran in the north, which is akin really to how many people have been killed in conflict in the north involving the Houthis in the preceding few months. So we really do see a rapid escalation of the conflict, and I think that as we look at the humanitarian challenges, we definitely have to consider the rapid expansion of conflict in the north as a crucial one to be addressed, which then brings us to the question of, okay, if we need to start focusing much more on resolving and managing conflicts as they're escalating in the north and as they are continuing on delicately and dangerously in the south and Hadramaut as well and elsewhere in the country. What does this mean, as Wendy was asking, for principled humanitarian assistance? Does this mean, this is an all-hands-on-deck moment where we need all international actors to somehow align behind these very overtly political objectives of helping to manage tensions between different factions in the country? And basically what my piece in the exchange argues is that, this is an issue that, and actually without making an argument, it's really highlighting the risks that agencies are facing now with the simultaneous rise of intense, dire humanitarian needs, and at the same time this desire/donor pressure, both working in unison, to engage much more with these conflict issues, peace-building issues, and political issues. And as Wendy, you alluded to, I mean, one of the issues that we see now, especially as we're entering this sensitive part and this most challenging, perhaps, part of the transition process, is a lot of development NGOs and multi-mandate NGOs, some excluded, who have actually been very overtly and consciously and strategically involved in the transition process, oftentimes organizing public consultations, community consultations, working with community-based organizations, civil society groups and others to gather input, feed into the national dialogue process, to serve as antennae around the country to help filter back input from different parts of the country back to the five-star hotel that one of the other panelists alluded to in the Capitol. So really, in doing so, I think the question becomes, How is this move understood by people in Yemen? How will it affect aid access? As many of the same agencies that are trying to provide principled, impartial, neutral humanitarian assistance have become indelibly associated with a political process that many factions in the country find to be slow, unfair, or otherwise objectionable and controversial. And that we really are entering into a phase where we need to continue thinking about how these organizations are going to be able to not only be principled and neutral and impartial, but also to be perceived as such, which is a huge challenge moving forward. So really, I wanted to flag up these risks which we're seeing and which could, in my opinion, lead to escalating attacks on aid agencies as that line between multi-mandate organizations with a partially political role and more purely humanitarian organizations is weighed and balanced. And at the same time, it's more of an issue even because a lot of the organization, we can't just say, okay, well, we need to, emphasize more the strictly humanitarian agencies. I mean, in the past few years, we've essentially seen, not in the appeals, but actually in the humanitarian assistance of the country, a 9 or 10-fold increase in humanitarian support going to Yemen, which previous years was 10-12% of the total ODA for the country, and now is 59-60+% of ODA going to the country. So we're going to need these multi-mandate organizations also involved in humanitarian action. So how can we help to avoid the political associations?
Steve, thanks very much.